Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
It's a great privilege of me to speak to you today to commemorate 35 years of our organisation. Here at the Millennium Plot, opened 24 years ago, and to remember those who are buried. In February 1977, Willie Birmingham, as a member of the Dublin Fire Brigade, had to break into a chalet in Charlemont Street and found a 70-year-old man dead for a number of days. This wasn't the first time he came upon such a tragic incident, but he determined to do something about it. No more did he want people buried in poor ground. He wanted them buried in a place where they would have dignity and respect. And on the 28th of October 1988, Alone acquired this plot of land and is now named the Millennium Plot, and the poor ground is no more in Dublin. I want to reflect briefly on the people buried here and to remember them and their relatives. They are sons and maybe mothers, young and old, some nameless, and men from God knows where.
And it is a great tribute to Willie that now when anyone dies without money or without family or without friends, they are buried in this Alone Millennium Plot. And the volunteers can visit them and can attend the funeral and the removal of that person that they have come to know and befriend. So this poem is called Willie Birmingham. I just want to read it out. Never part of the get rich quick, or the louts with the lust for gold. More a man of the common folk with a dream for the lame and the old. Never one of the smart-ass gang who brag that they have it made. Just a straight-up bloke who shared a joke with his mates in the fire brigade. Oh, but the places he'd been and the hovels he'd seen while the rest of us cursed and raged just sparkled desire and kindled a fire to help the plight of the aged. Never one of the surplice sort or the prelates in purple gown. More a how's your father, saint, who searched about the town to find the old and cold and spent and the hordes of address unknown, to help them cope and give them hope and tell them you're not alone. Thank you.
Our job is to bury people with dignity and respect and to carry that on into the future. And as part of the future, we constantly ask families and organisations like Alone to come in and look after their plots. And thus Alone did that. They came to me quite a number of months ago. I know it was during the winter, and they asked could they redesign the plot. So in the centre we have some topiaries, some circular ball topiaries. And the box hedging behind is done in such a way that it starts to come around the person in need, which is the ball. In the middle, the box hedging gets bigger as more support is brought around the person. And at the very, very far end, there's a simple topiary ball with one circle of box hedging around it. And that represents the person has been helped and is totally surrounded with Alone's help. Thank you very much.
Death is the great equalizer. As Beckett said, we are born astride a grave. The light gleams an instant and then is gone. But I have to say, I was so impressed by the CEO, Sean Moynihan, and what he said, by the chairman, Pat Morgan, and most particularly Aidan Bowers. Because volunteering is where it's at. I mean, we're lucky to have such wonderful chairman, CEO, board members, but also the volunteers. And I am privileged to be one of those people who knew Willie Birmingham. And I remember Willie Birmingham as an ordinary person. We're all ordinary people. He was a classic Dublin rough diamond, and thank God for it. But I think it's absolutely lovely that all of these flowers have a name and a date on them, because I think it was shameful in that period and horrifying to have it recalled for us today by our eloquent speakers, that period where just for the crime of being poor and alone, people were buried like criminals in the middle of night in cheap coffins, anonymously. Well, many of them are anonymous no more, thanks to Willie Birmingham. I am one of you, because I am heading rapidly towards 70, and it's bloody wonderful. I mean, getting old is fantastic, because you get stabilizer fins, and things that would have knocked you over emotionally 20 years ago, you just sail through them. And that is why, and I read this on the Alone website, statistically, the over 65 are the most content people in Ireland today. So let's have a boule of boss for all of us over 65s. So may I just say congratulations to everyone involved in this extremely moving ceremony. It's an appropriate way to commemorate 35 years, as it was appropriate that a week before he died, Willie Birmingham opened a housing unit. And that is now up to, I think, 90. Is that right? There are 90 people in this kind of housing. That is the best memorial anybody could have. So I am so honored to have been invited to be present with you. I am the least among you. I have done the least. You've had my moral support. You've had whatever support I could give. But you, the people of Alone, are the people who need to be honored here today for the work you have done to ensure that our fellow citizens do not lie in ignominy or in being ignored. And on this lovely day, let us thank God for the sense of community that has brought us all together here in Glasnevin Cemetery. I never feel lonely, not at all. Who could feel lonely with all these lovely people around?
Each flower has a name and a date on it. And each date and name represents a person who is buried in this Millennium Plot. The pink carnation is a symbol and symbolises that we will not forget.
The falcons of the wood are flown, and I am left alone, alone. Dig the grave both deep and wide, and let us slumber side by side. Angels of this sacred place, calm her soul and whisper peace. Watch us here, our brothers sleep. Watch with us, but do not weep. Watch with us through dead of night, but expect the morning light.